Let's return then to the risk matrix and the categorization of risks. We've said that the risk matrix is a visual tool. It combines the likelihood and the impact assessments to categorize risks into different levels of significance. This will help us for further analysis and for response planning. And we can see we have likelihood can be very low to very high, and impact can be very low to very high. And combining these, we can see there are different zones within the risk matrix of low risk, moderate risk, high risk, and very high risk or critical risk. Applying this to projects then and looking at a relief project, and as an example, we are considering supply chain disruptions. Here the likelihood of supply chain disruption is moderate due to weather conditions affecting transportation. However, the impact would be very high, as it would lead to potential delays in delivering critical supplies. So supply chain disruption poses a significant risk to the operation. The moderate likelihood, along with its very high impact, places it in the high priority quadrant. Our assessment then is that it needs immediate attention and proactive measures to mitigate potential delays in delivering critical supplies. This means strategies such as diversifying supply routes or pre-positioning supplies to address this risk effectively. Moving to a humanitarian project example, here we have the risk of community resistance to intervention. Now here the likelihood is low based on what we know of prior positive community engagement, but the impact would be very high if this risk were materialized, as it has the potential to hinder project success and community well-being. So despite the low likelihood, the very high impact suggests that this risk should not be ignored. Strategies could include ongoing community consultation, transparent communication, and collaboration to mitigate the risk. Moving on to a development example where we may have the risk of a funding shortfall. Here we have a high likelihood due to the uncertain economic environment the project is operating in. The impact itself is medium. It may lead to adjustments in project scope, such as the ability to deliver project services as planned. However, this risk still falls in the high priority category. While the likelihood is high, the impact is manageable. Contingency plans could involve seeking additional funding sources, revising project timelines, or exploring cost-saving measures. So the risk matrix is a versatile tool that can enhance risk management in relief, humanitarian, and development projects. Its visual representation of risks allows project teams to prioritize and allocate resources effectively and contributes to the success of the project and the achievement of objectives. The risk matrix helps us by allowing teams to focus on addressing high priority risks that have the potential to significantly impact project objectives. The matrix guides resource allocation towards mitigation and contingency planning for the most critical risks. It facilitates clear communication of risk levels to stakeholders, and this supports in turn decision making and resource allocation. And it encourages proactive risk management by identifying potential challenges before they escalate. Let's consider the scenario of a community development project focused on improving infrastructure and livelihoods in a rural area prone to droughts. Here we have identified risks such as water shortage, land ownership disputes, economic dependence on a single crop, insufficient skills of the local workforce, and unexpected changes in regulations. The likelihood of water shortage is high, This is due to the region's historical patterns of recurring droughts. The impact also is very high, a threat to agriculture, a threat to livestock, and a threat to community well-being. Our assessment then is as follows. The project's success in improving livelihoods is heavily dependent on water availability. This combination of high likelihood and very high impact means this risk is a high priority. Quantitative assessments could involve water resource monitoring, while qualitative insights into local agricultural practices can guide the development of sustainable water management strategies. The likelihood of risks related to land ownership disputes is moderate. There are existing tensions over land ownership. If these are realized, the impact could be high. There would be potential disruption to infrastructure development and community cohesion. Our assessment then is that the community development project should also involve land use planning. This combination of a moderate likelihood and high impact puts this risk in the high priority quadrant. Qualitative assessments involving community consultations and historical land use data can inform our strategies to address these land ownership disputes. Looking at economic dependence on a single crop, the likelihood here is moderate due to traditional farming practices. The impact, however, is high. Having a single crop makes farmers vulnerable to market fluctuations, climate-related risks, and pests. Our assessment then is that the livelihood improvement aspect of the project is at risk due to economic dependence on a single crop. This combination of moderate likelihood and high impact again puts this risk as a high priority. We can use qualitative assessments of local farming practices and quantitative analysis of market trends to guide our efforts to diversify crops and therefore enhance their economic resilience. The likelihood of insufficient local workforce skills is low to moderate, based on current education and skill levels as we know. If this risk is realized, the impact is medium. There are potential delays and it might lead to some inefficiencies in the project's implementation. So while the likelihood is relatively low to moderate, the impact on project efficiency is somewhat significant. This risk then falls in the moderate priority quadrant. Strategies could involve both qualitative assessments of local workforce skills and quantitative measures such as training programs to enhance skill levels. The likelihood of unforeseen regulatory changes is low based on the current regulatory environment. However, the impact would be high as any change in the regulations around our project work could lead to potential disruptions to project plans and funding. So although the likelihood is low, the impact on project plans and funding makes this risk a moderate priority. Qualitative analysis of the current regulatory environment and ongoing monitoring of regulatory changes, combined with quantitative financial forecasting, can guide strategies to adapt to any unforeseen regulatory changes. Let's look again at the risk matrix. We have likelihood, we have impact, from very low to very high in each direction. And we have different zones: low risk, moderate risk, high risk, and very high risk or critical. Now these different zones, they're not really fixed. Just because something falls in a particular zone, it doesn't guarantee that this is the right category. All risks are nuanced in some way, so always use your common sense. And let's see where those risks fall, the ones that we looked at for the example project. And we can see they're all different. Some are more severe, some less. Some are more likely than others. Some are moderate risks, some are high risks, and some are very high priority risks. And now it's time to apply what we've learned to your own work. So assess the likelihood and the impact of risks for a project that you are currently involved in. If you're not currently involved in a project right now, you can use a past project or a hypothetical one. But take these risks and assess their likelihood and their impact and plot these on a risk matrix.